The young princess named Lyra stood at the edge of the crystal balcony of her mother's palace, watching the distant rings of her world shimmer in the early light. For many seasons, the royal court had hosted suitors from across the star clusters, yet none ever looked at her with more than polite courtesy. Her world, Aurelis, was known for its radiant landscapes and its courts of elaborate ceremony, but Lyra belonged to a quieter branch of the royal line, and most off-world nobles saw her as an afterthought. She carried herself with grace, but her presence had been overshadowed by older relatives who commanded more political value. Each suitor came with gifts, promises, and rehearsed admiration, yet when the gatherings ended, their attention drifted toward others in the hall. Lyra bore it in silence, for she understood her place was not to compete for notice, but to uphold dignity. Still, she wondered why fate had shaped her path to pass unseen in rooms filled with people who claimed to seek meaningful union. Beyond the palace walls, the Interstellar Council had sent invitations. Seeking alliances meant to strengthen bonds across species. Most suitors arrived in towering vessels with armor that gleamed like forged suns. They bowed with exaggerated flourish, declared their ambitions, and rarely asked Lyra a single question about her own dreams. When she spoke, her words were acknowledged with polite nods, as though she were a decorative figure rather than a living mind. Her mother reassured her that time would reveal the one meant for her. Yet Lyra could not help feeling like a shadow cast behind grander lights. Across the stars, a human named Rowan served as a representative of a frontier coalition. Humans were still new to the wider council, and though they were known for bold action and endurance, they lacked the long lineage valued by ancient houses. Rowan had spent his life negotiating disputes among distant outposts, where resources were sparse and tempers fierce. He carried no noble title, yet he possessed a kind of calm confidence forged through hardship and observation. When the human coalition received the invitation from Aurelis, he was chosen not for charm, but for reliability. His superiors believed that even if no formal union emerged, he could at least strengthen diplomatic channels with fairness. Rowan approached the world of Aurelis aboard a compact cruiser that looked modest, compared to the grand vessels of other species. He stepped out wearing simple ceremonial cloth, trimmed with silver, and carried no ornate weapon at his side. Many nobles whispered at the sight of him, curious yet doubtful that a species so new to galactic politics could offer anything valuable. Lyra heard the quiet murmurs that spread through the palace halls, and she expected Rowan to behave like the others who had come before. When he was presented at court, he bowed with respectful stillness, his movements free of theatrical exaggeration. His eyes held curiosity rather than ambition, and when he looked at Lyra, he did not glance past her or assess her lineage. He looked at her as though she were the only presence in the room worth understanding. The court arranged a formal gathering where each suitor was asked to speak of his intentions. Rowan listened while others projected their voices with grand proclamations. When his turn came, he spoke with clarity rather than flourish. He said he came not to claim advantage or display superiority, but to learn what bonds might be built through shared purpose. The hall fell into a hush, for his modest tone differed from the competitive speeches that had filled the chamber. Lyra watched him closely, sensing sincerity that carried no hidden agenda. The following day, the suitors were invited to tour the gardens surrounding the palace. Lyra walked among crystalline trees that refracted light into gentle colors, accompanied by her attendants. Most suitors attempted to impress her with tales of their victories or their starships, yet Rowan walked beside her without pressing his achievements into conversation. Instead, he asked questions about the flora, the history of Aurelis, and the role the gardens played in the traditions of her people. Lyra felt her heart warm, for no one had ever shown interest in the subtleties she cherished. She explained how the trees grew from crystal seeds that absorbed sunlight and how their roots hummed with soft tones during seasonal shifts. Rowan listened with genuine fascination, admiring the gentle resonance that filled the air. His quiet wonder made her feel seen in a way she had never experienced. As days passed, Rowan continued to speak with Lyra in the gardens, the study halls, and the observation decks. He never sought to dominate the conversation, but asked for her thoughts on matters of governance, culture, and personal hopes. Lyra felt her confidence strengthen as she expressed ideas she had long kept hidden. She realized that while others saw her as a minor figure, Rowan saw a leader waiting for the right soil to grow. Word spread through the palace that the human representative spent more time with the overlooked princes than with influential elders. Some nobles scoffed at the idea, believing Rowan pursued her simply because other alliances were out of reach. Yet his actions suggested otherwise, for he spoke to her with the same steady sincerity in private as in public. One evening, the palace hosted a gathering where each suitor demonstrated a skill symbolic of his culture. Some displayed combat forms, others recited epics, and a few showcased advanced technology. Rowan stepped forward with nothing except a small device used by human explorers to project recorded experiences. He activated the device, and the palace hall filled with a visual memory of a human settlement on a distant frontier. The image revealed simple structures built among rugged cliffs, illuminated by the glow of twin moons. He described how the settlers worked together to survive harsh seasons, relying on cooperation rather than conquest. He spoke of how humans believed greatness could emerge from those who were overlooked or underestimated. Lyra felt a quiet resonance inside her as she listened to his words. His message was not about personal strength, but about the strength of unity. When the projection faded, the hall remained silent, for the simplicity of his demonstration carried profound weight. The following morning, Lyra invited Rowan to accompany her on a journey to the floating archives, a repository of knowledge suspended above the capital. They traveled in a transport that drifted through shimmering currents of energy. The archives glowed with millions of suspended crystals, each containing recorded histories of distant ages. Lyra showed Rowan the chambers where her ancestors preserved records of alliances long forgotten and wars that taught harsh lessons. Rowan observed each detail with calm respect, asking how her people balanced tradition with the need to adapt. She admitted that while her lineage valued tradition, they sometimes struggled to recognize potential hidden in unexpected places. Rowan looked at her with gentle understanding and told her he believed every civilization faced similar challenges. That moment made Lyra feel as though a bridge had formed between their worlds. Word reached her mother that the human representative had grown close to Lyra, and the queen requested a private council to assess the matter. Many advisors argued that a union with a human held little strategic value compared to alliances offered by older houses. Others questioned whether humans could handle the complex traditions of Aurelus. The queen listened carefully to every argument before turning to Lyra with patient eyes. She asked whether Rowan treated her with sincerity and whether his intentions felt genuine. Lyra answered that Rowan saw her not as a political token, but as a person worthy of attention and respect. The queen considered her daughter's words and decided to grant Rowan a formal audience to understand his character firsthand. Rowan entered the council chamber with humble composure. He spoke with quiet conviction about unity built through trust rather than hierarchy. He admitted humans lacked the ancient lineage prized by many species, yet he argued that shared goals could create stronger bonds than inherited prestige. The queen studied him closely and sensed honesty that could not be manufactured. She asked whether he sought alliance for advantage or for a genuine bond with her daughter. Rowan replied that he sought connection with Lyra because she possessed insight, wisdom, and compassion that he admired deeply. A murmur swept through the council at his forthright answer, for few suitors had spoken so directly. After the council dismissed the advisors, the queen called Lyra to walk with her in the quiet halls. She reminded her daughter that alliances were not solely strategic, but also pathways that shaped the future of their people. She said that if Rowan offered genuine partnership rather than hollow promises, then his presence might bring strength in ways tradition could not measure. Lyra felt her heart swell with gratitude, for her mother spoke not as a ruler, but as a parent who wished her comfort and growth. That evening, Rowan stood with Lyra on the balcony, where she had once watched the sunrise alone. The rings of Aurelis shimmered with pale hues that reflected off the palace spires. Rowan told her that humans believed every person deserved to be seen for who they truly were, not for the rank assigned at birth. He said that when he first met her, he sensed a mind capable of shaping futures rather than following paths crafted by others. Lyra looked toward the horizon and felt a renewed sense of purpose. For the first time in her life, she felt chosen not by obligation, but by understanding. Days later, the queen announced that the council would approve a formal union between Lyra and